44 states are in dispute as to who the president is. 20 of them are in support of saying these 4 states' legislatures should choose their own electors. The other 20 are saying they did everything right. And 4 states are being sued and kind of even suing themselves. But 44 states with 6 kind of abstaining. And we got major breaking news as all this moves at lightning speed. 126 members of the U.S. House of Representatives Republican Party have signed amici, curiae, basically saying we support Texas. These are people essentially saying Donald Trump did and should win the election. Or at the very least, they're saying they agree with Texas in this lawsuit, and the Supreme Court needs to allow Texas to file this complaint. Texas has officially responded. So Texas filed a lawsuit. The Supreme Court gave the 4 defendant states until Thursday to respond, which they did, saying this is bunk. And now it is on Texas to respond, and Texas did. And I think, this is really crazy. There's many leftists saying it's frivolous garbage and makes no sense. But I'm not saying Texas will win. I don't know if the Supreme Court will even take this up. Maybe these leftist pundits are right that that the Supreme Court will just throw this out. But at the very least, you have to recognize that in these states, they did change the rules of the election against the wishes of the state legislators, which does violate the electors clause of the Constitution. Does that mean they overthrow the election? No. But I don't think that even matters at this point. Right now, we've got Pennsylvania in their response saying that Texas is guilty of seditious behavior. Esquire is writing, the Republican Party is now a seditious organization. That's where we're at. Sedition. One half of the country fighting the other half of the country as to who they think the president really is. I know it's not as simple as that. Everybody wants a simple answer, but before you on your screen, I am showing you. This is in the Supreme Court of the United States on motion for leave to file a bill of complaint. It is U.S. Representative Mike Johnson and 125 other members of the U.S. House of Representatives in support of plaintiff's motion for leave to file a bill of complaint and motion for a preliminary injunction. And I believe we have Kevin McCarthy, the House leader, who has signed on. 64% of the House GOP has now signed on. Earlier today, a man testified in Wisconsin that while working for the United States Post Office, he was instructed to deliver backdated ballots, over 100,000. And there's no real response. The mainstream media, I should say rebuttal. The mainstream media has responded by saying it wouldn't matter anyway because they wouldn't count. I don't think it matters. My friends, after the story of Hunter Biden broke just the other day, 2 days ago, that the criminal investigations are real, that Joe Biden's brother is being investigated, we can't trust the mainstream media. They intentionally withheld this information. They lied to us. They said none of it was true. Now, most of us who pay attention, we know that the story was legitimate because we read the emails, but they're manipulating the public and the American people. Why now, when they write that this story is meritless and meaningless, should I believe them? Why now, when they say that this man, this whistleblower in Wisconsin is lying or irrelevant, why should I believe them? Maybe there's a good reason. Or maybe the divide, the decoupling in this country is so severe, the two realities will never be mended and no one will ever trust the other side. But why would I? I saw exactly what you saw. Joe Biden helping facilitate his son's business dealings in China by flying him on Air Force Two, and the media trying to cover it up to protect a corrupt politician, to allow him to enrich himself off of the backs of working people in this country. And now they would say to shut up when it comes to this lawsuit pertaining to Texas and the whistleblowers. Let's start breaking down what's going on because we have the official response from Texas. And I want to show you just a couple of things. I want to show you at least one definitive thing that shows, regardless of any fraud claims on constitutional grounds, I want to see a response that actually explains how these states were able to change the election rules against the wishes of the legislators and that the Constitution does not matter. I want to hear how they explain that. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There are many ways you can give. There's a P.O. box. You want to send me some stuff. But the best thing you can do is share this video. Let people know what's going on because, my friends, it is getting very, very bad. I want to show you this from Scott Adams. Google just shut me down, he says. The video they deleted is no different from all my other content. I assume they'll come for other videos soon. Scott Adams posted a screenshot where it's a message from YouTube saying, our policy says content that advances false claims that widespread fraud, errors, or glitches, and I'm not going to complete the sentence because I don't want to get flagged either, that you cannot claim that these issues affected the outcome of the election. They've removed Scott Adams' content. Please consider supporting my channel by sharing this video so that we can get the message out
turn to the Supreme Court.
The best of our abilities before YouTube finally does take it down. But don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell. Here's the story from The Hill, and then we'll get into spicy stuff. All eyes on Supreme Court in Texas fight. They say, the consensus among election law experts is that the court will roundly reject Texas's extraordinary request to invalidate Biden's win in the 4 key battleground states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, and Wisconsin. With the filing of its reply brief on Friday morning, Texas cleared the way for the court to issue an order on its request for a preliminary injunction, perhaps later that same day. Some court watchers expect the court will act no later than Sunday, ahead of the next day's electoral college meetings to formalize Biden's win over President Trump. Now, it's true. Many law experts have said this will get rejected. And there actually is one decent argument at the very least. When they say that these 4 states violated the Electors Clause, many other states did as well. Why isn't Texas suing all the other states? Now, some are saying that the Attorney General in Texas who filed the lawsuit is only doing so because he's facing a federal investigation and wants a pardon. But that makes no sense. Georgia's state legislature has also signed on, arguing they were wronged. U.S. House representatives have signed on saying they did violate the Constitution. So you can argue this one guy is bad or whatever, but then all of these other people signing on or intervening, well, they could just file on their own if they wanted to. One person does not negate the claims being made. But of course, there are some Trump supporting lawyers who have said they don't think this will go anywhere. It's a long shot idea, but I don't think that matters. And that's the important part here. That does not matter to me. What matters is that we're at a point where 44 states are currently in dispute over who the president will be. This is, I would say, unprecedented, but the United States has had a civil war in the past. So, of course, people like to say it's never going to happen. My friends, 44 states. If the Supreme Court comes out and says this is ridiculous and we reject this, do you think 126 members of the House are just going to say, okay, sure, whatever? On Twitter right now, there are people tweeting that the GOP House members who signed onto this have committed sedition and should be censured and booted from all committees. Some are saying the Republican Party should be completely removed. And some are even saying that Republicans are a faction, not a party. By supporting the president's efforts to overturn the election, the party is endangering its very existence, says Robert A. George. We have moved well beyond whether or not this is about the procedure or process. We're at the point where both sides are accusing each other of staging a coup. One side doesn't believe Joe Biden actually won. The other side doesn't believe Donald Trump actually won. One side has the mainstream media making tons of claims, but we now see that the mainstream media lied about Hunter Biden. So why would I believe anything they publish? They're coming out and admitting Joe Biden's family is under criminal investigation. And they withheld this information, calling it not news, and they called it Russian disinformation. And now they would come out and expect me to believe them. The realities in this country were fractured in two. From Breitbart, Pennsylvania to U.S. Supreme Court, Texas guilty of seditious behavior. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania accused Texas of sedition in its filing Thursday at the U.S. Supreme Court, responding to a Texas lawsuit seeking to invalidate the presidential vote of 4 other states on constitutional grounds. The only problem? Members of the state House legislature, the General Assembly, have filed briefs in support of Texas. So this is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania I believe as per the attorney general, but not the state legislators. They say Pennsylvania said that Texas was guilty of seditious abuse of the judicial process. Sedition is commonly understood as rebellion and is defined more precisely in federal criminal law as an attempt to overthrow the United States government. As Breitbart News was the first to report, Texas sued Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin on Monday night. That we understand. Pennsylvania and other states filed their responses on Thursday, saying, since Election Day, state and federal courts throughout the country have been flooded with frivolous lawsuits aimed at disenfranchising large swaths of voters and undermining the legitimacy of the election. The state of Texas has now added its voice to a cacophony of bogus claims. Texas seeks to invalidate elections in 4 states for yielding results with which it disagrees. It requests for this court to exercise its original jurisdiction and then anoint Texas's preferred candidate for president is legally indefensible and is an affront to the principles of constitutional democracy. Texas's effort to get this court to pick the next president has no basis in law or fact. The court should not abide by this seditious abuse of the judicial process and should send a clear and unmistakable signal that such abuse must never be replicated. I don't believe that anybody will be satisfied by the results of what's to come. No one was satisfied on November 3rd, November 7th. No one was satisfied on December 8th, the safe harbor deadline. And now I bring it to Mark E. Elias, a Democrat. He is I believe he runs Democracy Docket. He is a lawyer fighting for Democrats. And in response to the earlier news of the Kraken caucus, they called it, 106 House members, it's now 126, he says, I am shaken by this Texas case, not because it will prevail, it won't, but because something is seriously wrong with our democracy. That these elected leaders who know better are using the courts to spread lies and undermine our elections. This makes me very worried. This was in response to Jake Tapper, who said, the Kraken caucus, 106 House Republicans and 18 state attorneys general, who signed onto an anti-democracy lawsuit to disenfranchise millions of their fellow Americans based on lies and conspiracy theories. Well, Jake Tapper, if only you were a journalist, because Jake Tapper poo-pooed the story about Hunter Biden when it was brought up on his show that the Bidens had profited from China. He says, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Now he does. Now he is tweeting that Hunter Biden and Jim Biden, the Biden family, are facing very serious criminal investigations pertaining to potential money laundering and other contracts and illicit business dealings. So Jake Tapper, no, I don't take your word for it. I believe you're just another one of these fake news journalists. It's only a matter of time before YouTube bans me the same as they did Scott Adams, and I'm fully aware of that, but I'm going to keep talking about what needs to be talked about. Take a look at this video from Team Trump. Must watch. Shocking statement from USPS contractor on massive election irregularities in Wisconsin. This is a man named Ethan Pease. Pease was a driver, and the story he tells is quite shocking. He said that he was told that by postal workers where he was working, they were backdating ballots. He said that one night he went to deliver ballots, and the next day they said, you missed a pallet of 100,000. He said, I didn't believe I did, and asked, am I going to get in trouble? And he was told basically, no. Go ahead, bring these ballots in. Based on what he had heard about backdating, he was very concerned, and now he is blowing the whistle. How do you think mainstream media is responding to these very serious accusations? I'm not saying it's true. Not at all. He's one guy. I want to see the truck. Show me the evidence. You can make your claim. But I'll tell you this. Is it enough to say, can we please look into this? I think so. Is it enough to say there's definitive proof? Come on, man. To quote Joe Biden. I know a lot of people want me to say hard yes. I've absolutely said I think things are strange and all that stuff, but this has to go through a legitimate process. And you know what? Maybe we don't have enough time to do that hard investigation. I take what he's saying. I take what he's saying seriously, legitimately, and it must be looked into. But take a look at this from PolitiFact. This is from stated December 2nd, 2020 on Facebook. Alleged backdated ballots wouldn't have been counted even if USPS claim were true. If your time is short, they say this is false. They say, we can't yet say if the backdating claims are true, but we know they didn't affect the Wisconsin vote totals. Let me issue a correction. We can't say if the backdating claims are true. That's a fact. But it absolutely would have affected Wisconsin vote totals. It doesn't mean that it did. Okay, that's important. For all I know, this guy is lying. I understand he signed a sworn affidavit. He's a whistleblower, but take it with a grain of salt, and we'll see how these things play out. And I will stress, I run the risk of being banned for just telling you it happened. No joke. They could remove this video. They go on to say absentee ballots had to be received by the time polls closed on election day to be counted. The date doesn't matter if the ballots weren't submitted by then. They would just say they were. Okay, you see how ridiculous that is? All Wisconsin election results were reported by 4 a.m. November 4th before the alleged backdating referenced by this purported whistleblower. Now, that is a legitimate point which does call this into question. But they could have just said it was received prior or not. But yes, if the vote totals were reported, then I believe this claim is likely moot. It's just, I guess the point I'm trying to bring up with something like this is I don't trust the mainstream media. I don't trust this comment right here, even though it is a good point. I can't assume it's true. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying the media has done too much to shake my confidence in their reporting when in the past several years. I've ragged on the media and the lies, and that's what I'm trying to get at here. This is moving at lightning speed. By the time I finish recording this video, I waited to the last minute. By the time I'm finished recording this video, the Supreme Court may have issued a ruling, and then this video becomes completely pointless. And that's a challenge with fast-moving stories like this. And that's why the most important thing that I'm talking about here is not whether or not the Supreme Court rules in favor or in opposition to what Texas is saying. The important point is that no one will be satisfied. And we are heading towards probably the most ridiculous outcome ever. The accusation that either party is wrong, evil, or seditious. We have this one from Esquire. I've referenced it a bit, but let me show you what they say. Esquire says, nothing secedes like secession. Late Wednesday afternoon, it is in as clear a demonstration as there ever has been of an authoritarian rot at the heart of the Republican Party. 17 other states, all governed primarily by Republicans, filed an amicus brief in support of the ludicrous lawsuit being brought by Ken Paxton. 17 accomplices, he says, to the brain-dead seditious conspiracy. He's calling it a seditious conspiracy. This story is from December 9th. It is now December 11th. And that number is 19 states. Sorry, including Texas. That gives us 20. And this is where it gets much more serious. Robert A. George says it's not a faction. I'm sorry, it's not a party. It's a faction. Okay, call it a faction. By all means, call it a faction. They say with each passing day, President Donald Trump's losses continue to mount in court challenges to the election results. See, this is a lie. They say as of this writing, by one count, the campaign is 1-53. No, it isn't. The Trump campaign did not file 53 lawsuits. I believe the Trump campaign has filed 3, according to Rudy Giuliani. 3. The other 50 are brought by citizens and voters and Republicans, not Donald Trump. But you see why I say the media, it's hard to trust. You can't trust them. They're lying to make it seem like Trump is being defeated left and right. Today, the states of New California and New Nevada, which don't exist, filed amicus briefs with the amicus curiae in support of Texas. And they are roundly mocked because who is New California and New Nevada? But it's things like that exist to discredit Texas and Trump and the Republicans. And then the media will use that to claim, you see, this proves it. These people are crazy. But we don't know who filed these insane. Oh, we do know who filed. Their names are on them. But it's not California or Nevada who's signing this. It's ridiculous. It's insane. These lawsuits being filed that aren't from the Trump campaign could be intentionally dumb just to make Trump look like a loser. So that the media can come out and say over and over again, he lost. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. He lost. Trump has 3 lawsuits. He did lose them. They're mostly, I believe, an appeal, but I believe they're basically just not going well for him. So Trump's 1-3. You can be honest about it, right? Well, Trump has filed an intervention to join Texas as an injured party. And by saying the Republican Party is a faction, by one magazine saying they're engaging in sedition, by Pennsylvania saying in their filing, this is sedition. That's why I say, at this point, SCOTUS doesn't matter. Pennsylvania believes that Texas is in a state of rebellion. If the Supreme Court says no to Texas, does that change the fact that Texas is in a state of rebellion? It doesn't. It just means that one side will be left unsatisfied. Missouri had an interesting argument. Missouri said they don't necessarily agree with Texas, but they want the court to hear them out. And I believe that's the right approach. I don't know if Texas is right or wrong, but Texas does point out that many of the rules in these states were changed against the wishes of the Republican legislators. Now, I believe it was the governor of Montana who said, we did the same thing. Why are you not suing us? And I think the issue is a question of whether or not there is a challenge brought to these states. Nobody's challenging Montana. The margin is too large. We know who Montana voted for. But in these other 4 states, it is relatively close. Not so much in Michigan. So that is a decent argument. But it doesn't negate the argument outright. It just means, okay, fine, we'll sue you too, I guess. Well, they don't need to. That's the issue. But it is a good point. Texas should have sued basically every state, but maybe that would have been too much. The issue now, however, to counter this is that within these states, the state legislators have signed on as amicus briefs supporting the suit. Is the state legislator of Montana in dispute? Are they challenging what's happening and asking for help or some kind of relief? No, then why would it make sense to sue them? At any moment, the Supreme Court will rule, and we will either have the left being angry or the right being angry. If the Supreme Court decides to grant leave and the case moves forward, things will stay kind of as they are, slow, and nothing much will happen. If they reject this, there is going to be uproarious revolt. I'm not saying people in the streets with guns or anything like that. But let me just tell you, 126 House Republicans have signed on, correct? On January 6th, when the actual votes are counted in a joint session of Congress, if we have 126 Republicans demanding that this be disputed, it doesn't just get resolved. Now, without a majority, I don't see them changing anything. And maybe they revolt, they rabble, Joe Biden becomes president. And then in the months moving forward, things start to break down as nobody cooperates with each other and things get spicy. I don't know. I don't know because I can't predict the future. But I'll tell you what I can do. I can do this. Forbes says Donald Trump's presidency will end on the day of a comet, a meteor shower, and a total eclipse of the sun. I know I'm not superstitious. I'm not into astrology or anything like that. But I believe there is a funny quote from JP Morgan where he says millionaires don't follow astrology, billionaires do. I don't. But I do love this idea. Donald Trump, on December 14th, there's going to be the appearance of a comet. I believe it's the Genemids, I don't know how to pronounce it, meteor shower. And there will be a total solar eclipse of the sun in South America. Okay, in South America, not in North America, so maybe it's less relevant. But something else is going to be happening this month. You see, Forbes says this will happen on Monday. The day the Electoral College is set to vote, we will get a meteor shower and a comet. And yes, it's not entirely fair, but a solar eclipse of the sun. Something else is happening. Christmas star will be closest visible conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 800 years. Come on. I know it's silly, right? But you mean to tell me that on the winter solstice, December 21st, 2020, I believe that's the darkest day of the year, Jupiter and Saturn will align in conjunction for the brightest visible conjunction in 800 years. It's happening now. It's not just going to blink overnight. You can probably see it right now. They're probably right next to each other or very, very close. These celestial events occurring on such an important day. Well, important week, I suppose. This week between the 14th and the 21st is going to be ever so spicy. As the Electoral College votes are cast, the Supreme Court issues their ruling presumably just prior, maybe today or it's tomorrow or Sunday, maybe even on Monday. And then the planets align and the meteor showers happen. And boy, what a silly, silly time to be alive. Okay, I'm not actually suggesting that, these states, that these celestial events mean anything. But I do find it kind of funny because there was this viral video of this woman saying that Joe Biden was going to win, like in October, because of his like identity forward astrology axes. I have no idea what she was talking about. But it was funny and everybody was sharing it, having a laugh about it. And then Biden won. But yeah, come on. Like, you know, you could flip a coin and argue. Like, there's two choices. It doesn't mean it's 50-50, but people were making bets across the board. Some said Trump, some said Biden. We get it. Sometimes people were right. But she also says in this astrology video that something is going to change. The fundamental nature of leadership in this country will change. And then we learn on December 21st, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, the brightest in 800 years. A sign, a portent, a vision in the sky. I don't know, probably not. But I tell you, if I were to tell you, if I was to say 2 years ago, 44 states would be in a legal dispute over who the president was going to be, you wouldn't have believed me. Ladies and gentlemen, let's just stick around, be patient, and wait to see what happens as the Supreme Court is set to make their announcement soon. And it's not over. Because come January 6th, the Republicans could still dispute this, and we'll see how it plays out. I'll leave it there. My friends, tonight, 8 p.m., live at youtube.com/TimCastIRL will be likely the biggest show we've ever had and could precipitate the end of my career on this platform. I don't really think so, but prepare for what is going to be one of the silliest, craziest, and most fun shows we've done. I hope you know what that means. I will see you at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then. And then maybe not tomorrow. We'll find out. Thanks for hanging out.